Thank you for joining us in celebration of this year's UTRGV Virtual Arbor Day. My name is Marianela Franklin from UTRGV, Chief Sustainability Officer, and I am your MC for today. This event is hosted by UTRGV Facilities and Operations Department, along with the School of Earth, Environmental, and Marine Sciences and the UTRGV Office for Sustainability. Today, we have a very warm welcome from our Executive Director of Facilities and Operations, Mr. Abraham Hernandez. He was unable to be with us live today, so he has sent a pre-recorded message for us all. I'm going to ask Davey if he could please share that message.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the UTRGV Arbor Day celebration. My name is Abraham Hernandez, and I am the Executive Director for Campus Facilities Operations. Arbor Day is the day that we celebrate the importance of trees. Arbor Day is typically celebrated in April, but in Texas, we celebrate Arbor Day in November due to the favorable climate for planting trees. Traditionally, on Arbor Day, we encourage everyone to plant trees, not just on campus, but in their communities. Trees are an important part of everyone's well-being. They not only provide shade and beautify our landscapes, but they are also a perfect habitat for many different species of birds and other animals. Our grounds departments participate yearly on Arbor Day events by purchasing or receiving a donation to plant a tree on our campuses. Every day throughout the year, our ground staff maintains all of our trees in all of our campuses by ensuring that they are properly watered and trimmed to encourage growth. We take pleasure in seeing our students and staff and faculty enjoying afternoon walks or sitting under a tree to enjoy the shade that our tree canopies provide. The work our grounds departments perform is crucial for us to have great looking campuses, and maintaining our trees is the biggest part of it. We greatly appreciate all the hard work that is required to keep our trees looking beautiful. We are very proud to hold the designation of Tree Campus USA for the past 7 years. We will have a couple of guest speakers to help celebrate this year's virtual Arbor Day celebration. So I again welcome you and ask you to enjoy the rest of this presentation. We hope to see you in person next year.
That was, again, our Executive Director of Facilities Operations, Mr. Abraham Hernandez. So in continuation with our presentation, I wanted to share a little bit about the origins of Arbor Day. And I don't want to read this whole thing to you, but do want to share that this all started back in the 1800s by a gentleman of the name of J. Sterling Morton in Nebraska. And Arbor Day is an integral part of celebrating and educating and creating outreach and awareness of trees and the benefit of trees. So this has been going on now for over 150 years. And even today, it's still a compelling and important initiative because people around the world use this holiday as a way to come together, celebrate trees, and teach the younger generation about the need for environmental stewardship. What I really wanted to point out were these really quick fun facts about trees. One tree provides oxygen for up to 4 people in one day. Forests in the United States provide drinking water to more than 180 million people. In 1 year, an acre of trees can absorb the same amount of carbon emitted by a car driven up to 8,700 miles. That is quite a lot. Trees properly placed around buildings can reduce energy bills by as much as 30%. So these are really important, especially here in the Rio Grande Valley, when you consider the amount of heat that we have. And communities with ample tree life attract more homeowners and professionals and see property values rise between 10 to 20%. This is really, really important because, you know, if you consider what is happening in the market today, a lot of homes are being built and sold without any landscaping whatsoever. So if you find one with beautiful landscaping, you know that the value of that home is just out the roof, right? So due to our current circumstances and to follow the protocols of safety, we decided as a Tree Campus USA committee to hold this year's event virtually again. But I do want to share, we did have two very small ceremonial plantings, and we decided to keep those small, again, due to safety. And we're going to be sharing those with you here next. And as Mr. Hernandez mentioned, we are going on our 7th consecutive year as a Tree Campus USA designee, which is really, really important. And we're very honored to have that designation. So I'm going to ask Davey if he could please share both videos. We have a video for you of the tree planting that occurred in Edinburgh and the tree planting that occurred in Brownsville. So please share that with us, Davey, if you would. Thank you.
My name is Carlos Chavez. I'm the Assistant Director for Programs and Services in UTRGV. And to my right, I have Daniel Gonzalez. He is the Superintendent for Grounds with all his crew that makes it possible for our trees to look beautiful. Welcome to the 2021 UTRGV Arbor Day. Today, November 2nd, 2021, we are celebrating our 7th year of being in Tree Campus USA. And we're celebrating by planting a live oak tree that has been donated by some of the staff members for UTRGV. This important day where we celebrate trees and the importance of the trees for campus, for all of us, for students, and start by planting this tree today. But before we do that, I want to give an opportunity to the staff that donated this tree for this event to tell us why they decided to participate and donate this tree. So I'm going to have Jim Job go ahead and tell us a little, some words of why they're donating this tree today.
I'm Professor and Chair of the Department of Teaching and Learning. My colleagues are Dr. Pena from the Department of Teaching and Learning, Associate Professor, Dr. Garcia Cáceres, Lecturer in the Department of Teaching and Learning, Zulema Williams, Lecturer in the Department of Teaching and Learning, and Eric Munoz is Adjunct in the Department of Teaching and Learning. And we're donating this tree to UTRGV, personal donation on all of our parts, on behalf of a colleague who just lost her long struggle with cancer. And we're wanting to plant this tree on Arbor Day in her memory. Dottie Sheldon, she was a part-time worker in our department, a part-time lecturer in our department, but she embodied a lot of things that the department's about. First of all, she really worked from the heart. You could notice that in her. She was dedicated to the department. She also really loved our area, curriculum and instruction. Overall, her just dedication to the profession was exemplary and very representative of all of the faculty in the department, including those that are here today with us in her memory. Dr. Shelton was just a great person and colleague. You could tell from her in her collaborations with us. Besides her love of the profession, just the joy that she took in her work and the joy that she took in people, and that was always evident in talking to her. And so we just wanted to dedicate this tree in her memory, and for that reason we all came here to honor Dr. Sheldon's memory today.
Thank you, Davey, for sharing the Edinburgh campus. I believe you also have a video for the Brownsville campus tree planting. If you could share that one next. Thank you.
all for joining us for our Brownsville Arbor Day celebration. Arbor Day is a day where we think specifically about trees and the things that trees do for us and for our society. Here we're planting a lovely live oak tree, and courtesy of Facilities and Grounds. And the Brownsville campus is, even by university standards, is a beautiful, beautiful campus. And it's not just because of our really nice architecture and the layout of the campus, but it really is the plants and the trees and the nature. And they provide not just a lot of beauty for the campus, and they provide things that you can't get just with architectural planning. We're joined by the animal behavior class of Dr. Carl Berg. Ecotourism is a major part of our economy, and it's these plants, these trees that make that habitat, that attract that wildlife, that attract birders and butterfly watchers, and even fishermen from all over the world. And so apart from that, of course, trees store carbon, they clean our air, they help us provide clean water. They're valuable for lots of reasons. And that's what we think about today in Arbor Day, and that's why I'm very happy that we are adding yet another tree to our beautiful Brownsville campus. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Davey, for sharing those two videos, and thank you to Facilities. Thank you, Dr. Gabler, also for participating in the Brownsville planting and sharing all the importance of those trees. It's just amazing to see that although we have different campuses, we have all this beautiful, beautiful forestry among all the campuses. And so next, what I like to do is before we continue with all the rest of the presentation, the rest of the celebration, I do want to acknowledge a group of individuals, and it's really important to share that, you know, I've said this before, I struggle with just maintaining my little yard in the front and little yard in the back, yet there are 29 incredible gentlemen who on a daily basis take care of over 600 acres of property. And so before I mention them, I want to share that studies have shown, and I need to move some things around. I apologize, I can't see my own notes, that studies have shown that 62% of students say their school choices are based on appearance alone. Other students may not even realize they've made their choice based on their surroundings, but studies indicate that landscapes are a medium of communication that always sends a message. They say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who can't see the beauty in our breathtaking green spaces around our campuses, flowing water features, and impressive natural backdrops. Our university features spectacular views, creating an inviting atmosphere on our college campuses. And so with that, I'd like to acknowledge and say that this would not be possible without the dedication and commitment of a very small team and very hardworking individuals. This small team takes care of a little over 680 acres of university land. I ask you to please join me in acknowledging and recognizing them today during the celebration. So we have within their leadership, Mr. Abraham Hernandez, who's the Executive Director, Campus Facilities and Operations. We have Mr. Carlos Chavez and Martin Cortez, who are the Assistant Directors of Facilities Programs and Services and Facilities Maintenance and Operations. And I am going to read out their names because the grounds maintenance crew is an incredible team, and you will see them every day as you're walking through the campus. So I hope that as you walk through the campus, you stop and rather than smell the roses, which is what is typically said, that you stop and you embrace and connect with nature and connect with the forestry and connect with them, with these gentlemen who work very hard every day to keep our campus beautiful. They are Rodney Dorset, Anthony Lozano, Henry Piñeda, Rafael Ruiz, Alonso Soto, Rubén Zúñiga, Enrique Castro Jr., Rubén Aranda, Francisco Ávila Bernabé, Isaac Flores, Ramiro Azael Flores, Daniel González Jr., Martín Hernández Navarro, Mark Lotenville, Robert Rivera Fuerte, Matthew Martinez, Noel Moreno Jr., Agustin Maldonado, Victor Medina, Guadalupe Muñoz, Scott Lee Powell II, Rolando Reina, Arturo Rodríguez, Francisco Javier Romo Mejía, José Alberto Treviño, Javier Treviño, Roberto Villarreal, Javier Barrera, and Jacob Busset. So I do want to acknowledge because of the amount of work that they do every day. And another very important team involves our UTRGV faculty champions, who I also would like to recognize. Before I do so, I wanted to share these photographs of the amazing campus views that we have. And I have so many, but we have limited time, so I just picked a few. But you can see our students are walking through this gorgeous campus in Edinburgh. Again, you can see the gorgeous campus of Brownsville that Dr. Gabler was mentioning. For those of you who haven't visited Brownsville, please take the shuttle and go visit. And likewise, Brownsville, come and visit the Edinburgh campus and visit the Harlingen campus. The Harlingen campus also has unique landscaping and beautiful trees and palm trees and roses, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I also wanted to share a tiny little campus that very few people know about. So when you have the opportunity, please go over to Stark County. Stark County is a tiny little building that services a lot of our students that are in the Rio Grande City facility. And although it doesn't look very green at the moment, these pictures were taken after the freeze. And so the landscaping is not full just yet, but it is a gorgeous campus with a beautiful courtyard. In fact, it's so beautiful that many of our students actually sometimes bring their students and their children, and the children play in the courtyard while they're in class. I mean, it is a beautiful, beautiful facility that I hope you will go and visit as well. As I was saying, a very important team involves our UTRGV faculty champions and several community partners. Together, they're helping us educate both campus and community about the importance of our forestry. UTRGV Dr. Alexis Rosales has been critical to our Tree Campus USA designation. He initiated the very first campus-wide inventory of trees in Edinburgh, documenting close to 2,000 trees. And this is ongoing because he's still documenting more and more information about these trees and calculating these to have a value of close to $6 million. Now that value, that calculation was about 6 years ago. So I imagine that that number has gone up quite a bit because these trees have grown even more and the landscaping has grown even more in those 6 years since he first initiated. Actually 7, because we're going on a 7th year designation. So over 7 years now. He continues this program with the new community forestry course in collaboration with our partners from City of Brownsville and also Texas A&M Forestry Service. So next we're going to share a few videos with you. We're going to start off first with the video that you will see has last year's date. I thought it was important to share this video again with you because it talks about the proper way of planting and maintaining a tree. So you're going to see a video from our City of Brownsville forester, along with Texas A&M Forest Service, Mr. Bill Green. So it's Roy Reyes from Brownsville and Bill Green from the Texas A&M Forest Service. So Davey, if you could share that video, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roy Reyes, the City Forester for the City of Brownsville. Today we'll be planting a tree.
I'm Bill Green with Texas A&M Forest Service, Regional Forester for South Texas.
We are here at the Brownsville Visitors Commission Center, going to be planting a wild olive tree today.
It's also known as Anacahuita, Mexican olive, and we're going to try to get this tree in the ground and do it as good as possible so it has a good chance to grow healthy and strong.
We're planting a tree today celebrating Arbor Day, which we set a day aside so that we can plant trees, and being at the weather, the climate we have right now is a perfect time to be planting trees.
one of the first things you want to think about is, do you have the right tree for the right place? You don't want to put a big tree that grows really tall underneath power lines. You want to make sure you got a good tree for the spot you're putting it.
And today we'll be celebrating 21 years as Tree City USA for the city of Brownsville. Before we plant a tree and we go and purchase a tree, we always look out types of trees we're going to look at. You got the ball and burlap, you have container grown trees, and you got bare root trees. Today we'll be planting a container grown tree.
And you want to be real careful. This tree is not too bad with the roots circling around. You don't want circling roots. You'd cut and loosen them up. This is an example of grown in a container where the roots were circling too much and they're girdling and will really stress the tree.
Like Bill was saying, on these trees, whenever you do get a tree, this is kind of a bad example, a really bad tree when you buy something like this and plant it, because it will never stabilize. Something like this tree, like I said, it's got little roots coming out, feeder roots. You would want to cut some of these branches, but you got to look out, make sure that it's not so thick. You know, once the thicker the root, the harder it is to branch out the feeder roots.
And like I say, you loosen these up. If there's a lot more roots here, you want to loosen that up so that you don't have the roots circling around.
Now that we have the tree in the ground, I just want to explain to you, when you plant the tree on the ground, we want to make sure of the size of the hole that we plant. Before we plant the tree, you will want to go to 2 to 3 sizes bigger than the pot size. You don't want to go too deep. Most people plant trees too deep. So you want to make sure to plant the tree in the proper size where the dirt level comes on the pot. That's usually where the roots start flaring out. So once you have that there, so you just never can plant the tree too deep. So that's one really, really important thing to look for there. So you just never can plant the tree too deep. So that's one really, really important thing to look for, not planting the tree too deep. The next thing after we do put the tree plant, we got to provide at least a 2-inch layers of mulch around the tree, and make sure that the mulch does not touch around where the trunk flares out. You need to stay at least 2 inches away from the trunk of the tree.
Okay, and then after we have the mulch on, we put water on. We'll figure like 2 to 4 gallons per inch of diameter. This is a 2-inch tree. During the summertime, we'd put 4 gallons on per inch. That would be 8 gallons. Now during the winter, we'll put on 4 gallons of water, 2 gallons for each inch. It's a 2-inch tree, 2 gallons per inch. So we'll put on 4 gallons of water. And we should be doing that. Getting this tree established, the roots established, is really important. So the first month, we're going to water 3 times a week. The second month, we'll water twice a week. The third month, we'll water once a week, and then keep that going for a while till these roots get established and growing out. Yeah, just a couple other points. Planting a tree, when you fill in the soil that you dug out to make the hole, use the same soil. Don't put in potting soil. Don't put in improved soil. The tree's got to get used to the soil it's growing in. Backfill with the same soil that you dug out.
And if the tree, once you have the tree planted and all, needs any pruning, if you see any broken branches or what, it's best to prune them while they're young. The trees are more acceptable to pruning when they're young, structure pruning, so that when they get older, they're a little bit difficult more to prune. So it's very important to see any broken branches or anything. It's the best time to remove it when it's planted. You won't harm the tree. I want to thank everybody for watching this video, and hopefully it was informal for you all. And I want to also say that we celebrate today's Arbor Day with the City of Brownsville and UTRGV. I encourage everybody to plant trees currently right now. This is the best time to be planting trees because it's a cooler weather, cooler climate. And talking about planting trees, we do have a tree spade available for the City of Brownsville. It is available to the community for relocations for a fee. And we also take in donations to utilize those trees in parks and what. So if you have any questions regarding the tree spades or the tree planting, you can contact me at area code 956-592-9375.
Yeah, I also want to mention there's a really good website that can help you out with planting trees, selecting what trees. Just search for Texas tree planting. You can put in your county, the county you live in, get suggestions of what tree to plant there, how to take care of the trees so that they grow as well as possible. And if you need to get in touch with me, my name's Bill Green, Texas A&M Forest Service, 956-373-8543.
And let's keep it green, Brownsville.
So I believe you saw at the very end that Forester Roy Reyes and Bill Green were holding up a flag, because there is also something called Tree City USA. We are Tree Campus USA, but the city of Brownsville is in its 22nd consecutive year, if not more, I think, now as Tree City USA. We're on our 7th year as Tree Campus USA. And I do believe we have Bill Green with us. Davey, I don't know if you can unmute Bill Green. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Bill, to the wonderful video that we just shared with all the audience?
Oh, really good, Marianela. Yeah, I'm Bill Green with South Texas Regional Forester with Texas A&M Forest Service. Just want to start off by saying that I'm really proud to be a member of UTRGV Tree Advisory Board. UTRGV, as a member of the Tree City USA, has demonstrated its recognition of the benefits and the importance of managing and taking care of trees, promoting trees on campus. It's just that, yeah, Arbor Day is a really good time, since too often we take trees for granted. So today, that UTRGV and all year, UTRGV taking care of the trees is really important. This is our opportunity to remember that the benefits that trees bring to us. It's not only that they clean our air and provide habitat for animals, wildlife. Now there's a lot of current research that shows that trees are providing many health benefits. Being outside around trees lowers our stress and our blood pressure. Also, for our students at UTRGV, research shows that students that spend more time outside in nature have better grades at school. So yeah, congratulations to UTRGV for being recognized by Tree Campus USA, and just all the time placing importance in managing and caring for their trees on campus. So thanks a lot, Marianela, and congratulations to you all.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for being that partner that helps us through these processes for our Tree Campus USA. And thank you for those wonderful comments, because I really appreciate that you shared with the students that connecting with nature and appreciating their campus forestry could help them actually, again, like you said, help their health and help possibly, their grades, if they're not as stressed, if they're more at peace and at calm with themselves. I think it could set a really good positive tone before taking on their exams or turning in or doing presentations or whatnot. So I'm excited that you shared that. I really appreciate that very much. Thank you, Bill. Next, we have a short video, and this brief video is regarding the forestry course that Dr. Rosselli started and helped us gain our very first Tree Campus USA designation. One of the things that is really important is having to measure first in order to maintain anything. It's well said that if you cannot manage what you do not measure, and that is one of the things that Dr. Rosselli's and his students did in the very beginning when we started this process. And it's been so valuable. That information has been critical and valuable to the facilities maintenance department, maintenance and operations, because it has allowed them to better serve the forestry of our campus and better manage that forestry. So we have a short video about this course and the type of things that he and the students are doing. He is one of our sustainability faculty champions. And I'd really like to share this with you so you can see, so that you can connect with him. If you're interested in a course such as this or others, you can connect with our faculty champions because there's a lot that you can do. If you don't want to take the course, there is still volunteering opportunities because they work also very closely with communities, and you'll hear that in the video. So Davey, if you can share that short video, I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is a class called Community Engaged Scholarship and Learning. The class is outside. This one is on community forestry. The goal of this class is to expose students to different elements of the science of urban forests or community forests, but then also to get them to understand the role of science in community. Every single tree here on campus is tagged. We have a receipt of every single tree, where they were, how big they were, their estimated age, their estimated health. This is always one of the most favorite places on campus. And for the reason is that there are these trees. In 2 weeks, we are actually gonna go out into one of the communities here in Edinburgh, and the students are gonna work with 8 different households to plant and landscape their yard with trees. We have 250 trees that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have donated to us.
Thank you, Davey. Next, I want to share with you another 2 faculty members, sustainability faculty champions who have projects both on campus and off campus in helping us with conservation and restoration of our forestry. And they are Dr. Christopher Gabler and Dr. Alejandro Fierro Cabo, who both are working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the Nature Conservancy on nurseries that are going to help the conservation and restoration of our forestry, not just on campus, but on a regional level. So we have a brief video we want to share with you about Dr. Gabler's nursery, and then we'll have a chance to hear a few words from him as well. So Davey, if you can share that video, I appreciate it very much.
Tamaulipan thorn scrub used to stretch across the entire lower Rio Grande Valley. Now, less than 10% remains, according to AmericanForest.org. Thorn scrub is essential for local wildlife habitats, and while there's support for reforestation, funding available, and even land, there's one thing missing.
And everyone gets ready and like puts their gloves on and ties their boots up and gets their shovel and are like, okay, let's get to this. Where are all the trees we're gonna plant?
Even with more than 70 thorn scrub species, there aren't many available to buy and plant.
Very few of them are well studied enough that somebody could sort of just go and look up how to grow them. You know, what sort of conditions it takes to get the seed just to germinate.
So UTRGV is growing 100,000 seedlings of thorn scrub to plant across the region this fall. 2 of the 16 species being grown on the UTRGV Brownsville campus are well researched. For the rest, it's an opportunity to learn as much as possible about them.
We want to explore every step of the way. All of the growth and the production we're doing is taking an experimental approach.
In addition to possibly helping with wildlife conservation and the ecotourism associated with it, the project's findings could also help nurseries, since organizations granted funds for reforestation need tree suppliers.
If we can improve the efficiencies of this production, that may make these species cost effective. It may make them profitable. And if they become profitable, then in theory, every nursery in town might want to start making it. And that'd be a great thing.
To learn more about the projects and research underway at the UTRGV School of Earth, Environmental, and Marine Sciences, visit utrgv.edu/SEAMS.
So Dr. Gabler, I believe he is with us today, and I would love to hear, to see if you have any further comments to your video. We have limited time, so we're gonna go rather rapidly, but I am sure there's something you'd love to add, so please share with us.
Of course, thank you, Marianella. And I also want to add that Dr. Fierro Cabo is here as well, if he wants to add something as well. Our nursery's in its second year. We're continuing to grow and get better at what we're doing, but we're not at that target of 100,000 trees yet. And one of the big shortcomings is just available help. It's a pretty laborious task. So if anyone is interested in contributing, there's lots of different ways to contribute. And I want to sort of open the door for any volunteers or students. We have classes associated with reforestation now. We're making this something that you can get more course credit to be participating in. And if not, even if you're an outside community member or a staff member, anyone can get in touch with me or one of our my grad students who helps coordinate volunteers, and you can come and help out at the nursery and really hands-on grow some of these trees that people go and plant, for example, at the Rio Reforestation event that normally happens every year, right? So these are the very trees that are getting used for reforestation around the valley, and you can be an integral part of it. Just let me know. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Dr. Fierro, if you could also share a little bit about your project. I looked for a video and I couldn't get it to work, so I apologize for that, but I'm so glad you're here with us today so that you can share with the campus community and the community at large. We do have some community members in the audience today. Could you share a little bit about the project you have with the Nature Conservancy?
Yes, thank you, Marianella. So in addition to the nursery operation you saw in the video, there is another operation, parallel operation off campus at the Southmost Preserve that is owned by the Nature Conservancy. And this was our first year in that second operation. We grow 15,000 seedlings this year. And we are planning to expand that number for the coming growing season. We are deciding how much we can expand. And well, this location is also open for student interaction there. We have obviously students working at the nursery. And there are other opportunities to work in the thorn forest restoration, which in this case, in this particular location, also includes mixed palm forest. So there are many activities in the properties, not just the nursery. It's a property that is under conservation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fierro Cabo. And next we are going to share with you, and I apologize for going so quickly, but we are a little bit limited with time, and this is an 18-minute TED Talk. We have a film series, and we have a wonderful film that we're going to be featuring virtually we're going to be screening on November 17th. And the speaker for this TED Talk is featured in that film. So we wanted to share this with you because it is actually quite inspiring. It's information that many of us probably didn't even know, and it's quite interesting. So please sit back. This is an 18-minute video. Grab yourself something to drink, some popcorn, because it's almost like watching a movie. So thank you for joining us once again. I know we had a few individuals come in a little late. This is our UTRGV 2021 virtual Arbor Day, and we hope to have all of this happening again and live this next spring during Earth Fest, so that you can come out and actually plant a bunch of trees with us during Earth Fest. But for now, let's go ahead and move on with this wonderful TED Talk on how trees talk to each other. So if you could please share, Davey, and start the TED Talk. Thank you.
Imagine you're walking through a forest. I'm guessing you're thinking of a collection of trees, what we foresters call a stand, with their rugged stems and their beautiful crowns. Yes, trees are the foundation of forests, but a forest is much more than what you see. And today, I want to change the way you think about forests. You see, underground, there is this other world, a world of infinite biological pathways that connect trees and allow them to communicate and allow the forest to behave as though it's a single organism. It might remind you of a sort of intelligence. How do I know this? Here's my story. I grew up in the forests of British Columbia. I used to lay on the forest floor and stare up at the tree crowns. They were giants. My grandfather was a giant too. He was a horse logger, and he used to selectively cut cedar poles from the inland rainforests. Grandpa taught me about the quiet and cohesive ways of the woods and how my family was knit into it. So I followed in Grandpa's footsteps. He and I had this curiosity about forests. And my first big aha moment was at the outhouse by our lake. Our poor dog Jigs had slipped and fallen into the pit. So Grandpa ran up with his shovel to rescue the poor dog. He was down there swimming in the muck. But as Grandpa dug through that forest floor, I became fascinated with the roots. And under that, what I learned later was the white mycelium, and under that, the red and yellow mineral horizons. Eventually, Grandpa and I rescued the poor dog. But it was at that moment that I realized that that palette of roots and soil was really the foundation of the forest. And I wanted to know more. So I studied forestry. But soon I found myself working alongside the powerful people in charge of the commercial harvest. The extent of the clear-cutting was alarming, and I soon found myself conflicted by my part in it. Not only that, the spraying and hacking of the aspens and birches to make way for the more commercially valuable planted pines and firs was astounding. It seemed that nothing could stop this relentless industrial machine. So I went back to school, and I studied my other world. You see, scientists had just discovered in the laboratory in vitro that one pine seedling root could transmit carbon to another pine seedling root. But this was in the laboratory, and I wondered, could this happen in real forests? I thought yes. Trees in real forests might also share information below ground. But this was really controversial, and some people thought I was crazy. And I had a really hard time getting research funding. But I persevered. And I eventually conducted some experiments deep in the forest, 25 years ago. I grew 80 replicates of 3 species, paper birch, Douglas fir, and western red cedar. I figured the birch and the fir would be connected in a below-ground web. But not the cedar, it was in its own other world. And I gathered my apparatus, and I had no money, so I had to do it on the cheap. So I went to Canadian Tire. And I bought some plastic bags and duct tape and shade cloth, a timer, a paper suit, a respirator. And then I borrowed some high-tech stuff from my university, a Geiger counter, a scintillation counter, a mass spectrometer, microscopes. And then I got some really dangerous stuff, syringes full of radioactive carbon-14 carbon dioxide gas, and some high-pressure bottles of the stable isotope carbon-13 carbon dioxide gas. But I was legally permitted. Oh, and I forgot some stuff. Important stuff, the bug spray, the bear spray, the filters for my respirator. Oh well. The first day of the experiment, we got out to our plot, and a grizzly bear and her cub chased us off. And I had no bear spray. But you know, this is how forest research in Canada goes. So we came back the next day, and Mama Grizzly and her cub were gone. So this time we really got started. And I pulled on my white paper suit, I put on my respirator, and then I put the plastic bags over my trees. I got my giant syringes, and I injected the bags with my tracer isotope carbon dioxide gases. First, the birch. I injected carbon-14, the radioactive gas, into the bag of birch. And then for fir, I injected the stable isotope carbon-13 carbon dioxide gas. I used 2 isotopes because I was wondering whether there was two-way communication going on between these species. I got to the final bag, the 80th replicate, and all of a sudden Mama Grizzly showed up again. And she started to chase me, and I had my syringes above my head, and I was swatting the mosquitoes, and I jumped into the truck, and I thought, this is why people do lab studies. I waited an hour. I figured it would take this long for the trees to suck up the CO2 through photosynthesis, turn it into sugars, send it down into their roots, and maybe, I hypothesized, shuttle that carbon below ground to their neighbors. After the hour was up, I rolled down my window and I checked for Mama Grizzly. Oh good, she's over there eating her huckleberries. So I got out of the truck and I got to work. I went to my first bag with the birch. I pulled the bag off. I ran my Geiger counter over its leaves. Perfect. The birch had taken up the radioactive gas. Then the moment of truth. I went over to the fir tree. I pulled off its bag. I ran the Geiger counter up its needles, and I heard the most beautiful sound. It was the sound of birch talking to fir. And birch was saying, hey, can I help you? And fir was saying, yeah, can you send me some of your carbon? Because somebody threw a shade cloth over me. I went up to cedar, and I ran the Geiger counter over its leaves. And as I suspected, silence. Cedar was in its own world. It was not connected into the web, interlinking birch and fir. I was so excited. I ran from plot to plot and I checked all 80 replicates. The evidence was clear. The C13 and C14 was showing me that paper birch and Douglas fir were in a lively two-way conversation. It turns out at that time of the year in the summer that birch was sending more carbon to fir than fir was sending back to birch, especially when the fir was shaded. And then in later experiments, we found the opposite, that fir was sending more carbon to birch than birch was sending to fir. And this was because the fir was still growing while the birch was leafless. So it turns out the two species were interdependent, like yin and yang. And at that moment, everything came into focus for me. I knew I'd found something big. Something that would change the way we look at how trees interact in forests, from not just competitors, but to cooperators. And I had found solid evidence of this massive below-ground communications network, the other world. Now, I truly hoped and believed that my discovery would change how we practice forestry, from clear-cutting and herbiciding to more holistic and sustainable methods. Methods that were less expensive and more practical. What was I thinking? I'll come back to that. So how do we do science in complex systems like forests? Well, as forest scientists, we have to do our research in the forest, and that's really tough, as I've shown you. And we have to be really good at running from bears. But mostly, we have to persevere in spite of all the stuff stacked against us. And we have to follow our intuition and our experiences and ask really good questions. And then we got to gather our data and then go verify. For me, I've conducted and published hundreds of experiments in the forest. Some of my oldest experimental plantations are now over 30 years old. You can check them out. That's how forest science works. So now I want to talk about the science. How were paper birch and Douglas fir communicating? Well, it turns out they were conversing not only in the language of carbon, but also nitrogen and phosphorus and water and defense signals and allelochemicals and hormones, information. And I have to tell you, before me, scientists had thought that this below-ground mutualistic symbiosis called a mycorrhiza was involved. Mycorrhiza literally means fungus root. You see their reproductive organs when you walk through the forest. They're the mushrooms. The mushrooms, though, are just the tip of the iceberg, because coming out of those stems are fungal threads that form a mycelium, and that mycelium infects and colonizes the roots of all the trees and plants. And where the fungal cells interact with the root cells, there's a trade of carbon for nutrients. And that fungus gets those nutrients by growing through the soil and coating every soil particle. The web is so dense that there can be hundreds of kilometers of mycelium under a single footstep. And not only that, that mycelium connects different individuals in the forest. Individuals not only of the same species, but between species, like birch and fir. And it works kind of like the internet. You see, like all networks, mycorrhizal networks have nodes and links. We made this map by examining the short sequences of DNA of every tree and every fungal individual in a patch of Douglas fir forest. In this picture, the circles represent the Douglas fir, or the nodes, and the lines represent the interlinking fungal highways, or the links. The biggest, darkest nodes are the busiest nodes. We call those hub trees, or more fondly, mother trees, because it turns out that those hub trees nurture their young, the ones growing in the understory. And if you can see those yellow dots, those are the young seedlings that have established within the network of the old mother trees. In a single forest, a mother tree can be connected to hundreds of other trees. In using our isotope tracers, we have found that mother trees will send their excess carbon through the mycorrhizal network to the understory seedlings. And we've associated this with increased seedling survival by 4 times. Now, we know we all favor our own children. And I wondered, could Douglas fir recognize its own kin? Like Mama Grizzly and her cub? So we set about an experiment, and we grew mother trees with kin and stranger seedlings. And it turns out they do recognize their kin. Mother trees colonize their kin with bigger mycorrhizal networks. They send them more carbon below ground. They even reduce their own root competition to make elbow room for their kids. When mother trees are injured or dying, they also send messages, wisdom, onto the next generation of seedlings. So we've used isotope tracing to trace carbon moving from an injured mother tree down her trunk into the mycorrhizal network and into her neighboring seedlings. Not only carbon, but also defense signals. And these 2 compounds have increased the resistance of those seedlings to future stresses. So trees talk. Thank you. Through back and forth conversations, they increase the resilience of the whole community. It probably reminds you of our own social communities and our families. Well, at least some families. So let's come back to the initial point. Forests aren't simply collections of trees. They're complex systems with hubs and networks that overlap and connect trees and allow them to communicate, and they provide avenues for feedbacks and adaptation. And this makes the forest resilient. That's because there are many hub trees and many overlapping networks. But they're also vulnerable. Vulnerable not only to natural disturbances, like bark beetles that preferentially attack big old trees, but high-grade logging and clear-cut logging. You see, you can take out 1 or 2 hub trees, but there comes a tipping point. Because hub trees are not unlike rivets in an airplane. You can take out 1 or 2 and the plane still flies. But you take out 1 too many, or maybe that one holding on the wings, and the whole system collapses. So now how are you thinking about forests? Differently? Yes. Cool. I'm glad. So, remember, I said earlier that I hoped that my research, my discoveries, would change the way we practice forestry. Well, I want to take a check on that 30 years later here in Western Canada. This is about 100 kilometers to the west of us, just on the border of Banff National Park. That's a lot of clear cuts. In my estimation, there hasn't been a lot of change in the last 30 years. It's not so pristine. In 2014, the World Resources Institute reported that Canada in the past decade has had the highest forest disturbance rate of any country worldwide. And I bet you thought it was Brazil. In Canada, it's 3.6% per year. Now, by my estimation, that's about 4 times the rate that is sustainable. Now, massive disturbance at this scale is known to affect hydrological cycles, degrade wildlife habitat, and emit greenhouse gases back to the atmosphere, which creates more disturbance and more tree diebacks. Not only that, we're continuing to plant 1 or 2 species and weed out the aspens and birches. These simplified forests lack complexity, and they're really vulnerable to infections and bugs. And as climate changes, this is creating a perfect storm for extreme events like the massive mountain pine beetle outbreak that just swept across North America, or that mega fire in the last couple of months in Alberta. So I want to come back to my final question. Instead of weakening our forests, how can we reinforce them and help them deal with climate change? Well, you know, the great thing about forests as complex systems is they have enormous capacity to self-heal. In our recent experiments, we found with patch cutting and retention of hub trees and regeneration to a diversity of species and genes and genotypes, that these mycorrhizal networks, they recover really rapidly. So with this in mind, I want to leave you with 4 simple solutions. And we can't kid ourselves that these are too complicated to act on. First, we all need to get out in the forest. We need to reestablish local involvement in our own forests. You see, most of our forests now are managed using a one-size-fits-all approach. But good forest stewardship requires knowledge of local conditions. Second, we need to save our old-growth forests. These are the repositories of genes and mother trees and mycorrhizal networks. So this means less cutting. I don't mean no cutting, but less cutting. And third, when we do cut, we need to save the legacies, the mother trees and networks and the wood, the genes, so they can pass their wisdom on to the next generation of trees, so they can withstand the future stresses coming down the road. We need to be conservationists. And finally, fourthly and finally, we need to regenerate our forests with a diversity of species and genotypes and structures by planting and allowing natural regeneration. We have to give Mother Nature the tools she needs to use her intelligence to self-heal. And we need to remember that forests aren't just a bunch of trees competing with each other, they're super cooperators. So back to Jigs. Jigs' fall into the outhouse showed me this other world, and it changed my view of forests. I hope today to have changed how you think about forests. Thank you.
So before you leave us, we have a few more supplemental resources that we want to share with you. So please just spare a few more minutes. I know we're at the top of the hour. We wanted to share with you a Sustainability Adelante series that we just launched. It is a film series, a podcast, and a TikTok video series. And one of the things that we will be sharing with you all next week is the Sustainability Adelante podcast series. This month of November, we have 4 guest speakers. You have heard from some of them today: Dr. Alexis Rosales, Dr. Christopher Gabler, Dr. Alejandro Fierro Cabo, and Carlos Chavez, the Assistant Director of Facilities, Programs, and Services, will be sharing more in-depth information about the wonderful research projects that they are working on, the wonderful collaborations they have in the community, as well as the sustainable forestry management that is happening here on our campus. So please look out for these podcasts. They will be on the website. Mr. Jeremy San Miguel will be sharing the links to the Sustainability Adelante series here on the chat, so make sure to look at that. I mentioned to you we have a wonderful film that we are screening on November 17th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The Zoom link is attached. And again, Mr. San Miguel will be putting that in the chat for you all to also take a look at. Please save the date for November 17th. The young lady that just spoke in the TED Talk is featured in this film. It is incredible. It's just 1 hour. It's like a documentary, and I hope that you can join us. We pay quite a bit of money so that we can offer these films for free. If you were to try to find this film yourself, you would have to pay a rental fee. So I encourage you, make it a movie night with your friends and family and sit back on November 17th and watch the film. We have the trailer, but we've run out of time, but we will, you can find the trailer to the movie on our website. I also want to share these other resources. We do not promote or endorse any particular books or organizations, but these are resources that talk about what Bill Green shared, and that is the healing power of trees. And so there's a book called Forest Bathing, and you can also find resources at the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. There's another organization called Tree People. These are really great sites where you can find so much more information. And then there's a conference that happens every year. The Partners in Community Forestry Conference is happening in Louisville, Kentucky next week. In 2 weeks from November 16th through 19th. If you're interested, please check it out. I'm not sure if it's hybrid or not. I do know it's face-to-face, but I'm not sure if they're offering some of it virtually. There is the Texas Forestry Association. It has a lot of resources for you there. And then I want to share another very quick video, and it is very quick. And this is the Friends of the Wildlife Corridor Real Reforestation. If you really want to help our region in terms of planting trees so that we can have clean air, clean water, and clean soil, so that we can eat, breathe, and drink less chemicals on a daily basis, especially when you consider your children or your grandchildren, please volunteer for this event. They have not had one in the last 2 years because of COVID, but I am pretty sure they are ramping up to start this all over again. I want to share this video so you can see what real reforestation is all about. Every year, a lot of UTRGV students, staff, and faculty go out there. In fact, I took some wonderful photographs last time we were there. Dr. Rossellis and Dr. Gabler were there with their students, and we just had a blast. It was so much fun. So I hope you can join us for the next one. Davey, can you share that video real quick?
According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, 95% of the native habitat in the valley is gone for a number of reasons. So to help restore that lost land to its natural glory, hundreds of volunteers spent the better half of their Saturday giving back, all in hopes of building a new future to the valley's wildlife.
So we want to make sure that the soil comes to the surface right here.
Over 1,000 volunteers of all ages picked up a shovel and made their way to the Lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge at the Milagro Tract to plant seedlings. And it's all for a big cause.
It contributes a lot to our own quality of life, so I think people are getting that message that ultimately this is really habitat for wildlife, but it also contributes to our own well-being.
Volunteers covered 23 acres with the goal of planting 14,000 native seedlings, and they didn't disappoint. From the youngest to the oldest, volunteers came from far and wide to help. Arlene LeBoy made the trip with her family and members of the Veteran Females United in Brownsville to do their part.
A lot of people don't know if you don't participate in things like this, you're not aware of this. So I think that's important. Like even just a few of us that attended, now we can go and spread the word to the rest of the people.
Families, scout groups, local churches, and schools all taking part. For many of the students, the day off could have been spent sleeping in, but the project was worth waking up early for.
I love to facilitate change in my community, and I think it's a great thing that all these people showed out here today to plant trees and to, just facilitate this environment and help the environment for the other animals here.
None of us are getting paid, we're doing this out of the kindness of our hearts. It's awesome. It's awesome that I see little kids, big kids, high school, grown-ups. It's amazing.
Fish and Wildlife Service says it's never too late to help preserve the environment and natural beauty of the valley.
Share the word. That's all that we really need to start making progress towards creating more green spaces in our community.
So far, the
So again, we want to thank you, but before you leave, I do want to acknowledge the wonderful team of students, graduate students and interns at the Office for Sustainability. This type of program, which may seem simple because it's virtual, does take a lot of work. We have an incredible team this year of students producing podcasts like Mr. Ruben Rios, the videos of both tree plantings and the TikTok video series is produced by Martín Torres and Yesenia Alcocer. Our graphic design team, all the beautiful graphics that you've seen and a report that we will be posting as well next week on our website is created by Yasmin Sanchez and Yesenia Garcia. Our content writers who help write up these reports as well as help us with our assessments are Alvaro Ayala and Kimberly Regalado. I want you to please join us in social media. We have two incredible students, Damian Davila and Brittany Garza, who make sure to post all the resources that we talked about today and then some. We have 4 incredible students also working on the sustainability campus-wide assessment. They've been at it for 2 years to put this report together, and we hope to share that with you in the spring. This report is being sent to ASHE STARS over the holidays in December. We have to get it done before the end of December. And then I encourage you to please take a look at our new website. We have a very talented student, Mr. Mike Pañuelos, who has put a new website together for us, and you can find everything we talked about today there. The leadership of this team, I can't thank enough Mr. Jeremy San Miguel, who just joined us a few months ago. He is our new sustainability program coordinator. And the logistics of setting all this up, those of you who have been at the university for years knows that there's a lot of processing, to set up these type of events, to get everything set and put together. And that is Ms. Sandra Montalvo, our sustainability program specialist. And I want to thank Davy Salazar, who is the tech support specialist for the Division of Research and New Program Development. Without him, we couldn't run these events as smoothly as we do. So thank you, Davy, very much. Before we head out, I do want to just give you a few words and share with you the words of J. Sterling Morton about the holiday he initiated in 1872 and how his words still resonate today. Planting trees is an act of kindness and optimism, a gift for our friends and neighbors and for future generations. The trees we plant clean the air, beautify our neighborhoods, provide homes for wildlife, conserve energy and topsoil, and help keep the atmosphere in balance. And let's face it, life is just better when we live amongst the trees. The celebration of Arbor Day represents a priceless opportunity, an opportunity for us all to take positive action to make our world a better place and to learn about trees and the natural world. An opportunity for neighbors to join together for the benefit of all. An opportunity for communities to reach across barriers of income, geography, culture, and politics to work for a common good. An opportunity to celebrate life and the interconnectedness of all creation. So thank you to all for your continued support and commitment in helping us keep UTRGV alive and beautiful. And please go out and plant trees, as many trees as you can. And may the forest be with you. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's celebration. And we hope to see you again next year. And we hope to be out face-to-face planting trees alongside you. Thank you. We would like to encourage you to please take the sustainability pledge. And we will be sending out certificates for those of you who take the pledge. And again, thank you so much for everything you do to help support sustainable development on our campus and throughout the community. And that concludes our presentation and celebration of Arbor Day for 2021. Thank you.